Hello everyone, just Goran here, and happy Halloween, but more importantly, happy World Lemur Day. Lemurs are quite spooky, I guess it's kind of fitting. So yeah, today we'll be looking at all the lemurs in Planet Zoo, red-ruffed lemurs, but also the black and white ruffed lemur, and of course also the ring-tailed lemur. It's been quite a while since we've done a lemur video, and back when I made the ring-tailed and the black and white ruffed lemur videos, I left out all of the habitats that had multiple species in it, intending to put them in a mixed video, which will be this one. It's just taken me a bit long and I regret doing it that way. But we'll look at all the mixed lemur habitats, and in the future we'll have one more video for all the red ruffed lemur habitats that I've seen. But let's get started. So over here we are in Apenheul, and we are in the Madagascar area, which for some reason has a bonobo viewing area. But you can see there's some lemurs on top of the bonobo viewing area. They can just free roam this entire area, and they are literally going all over the place. Wow, that was an impressive jump. As you can see on this sign, there is a huge number of lemurs in here, including the crowned lemur, red-bellied lemur, and all three species from Planet Zoo. So here we see the black and white ruffed lemur, red ruffed lemur, and there is ring-tailed lemurs in here as well. They have a huge space to explore over here, and we can actually hear some music playing because they are currently getting fed in the background there. Let's do a little bit of time traveling to see this habitat in a much more lush environment in the middle of the summer instead of the early spring, and you can see, you'll see the differences, especially right now coming up as we are moving around this lake over here. This is how it looks in the summer, and then in the early spring it looks like this, so a bit more barren. So I'll mostly be using the summer footage because it's very nice looking. Anyway, what I love here is that we have this very simple fence and then the education sign on it, as if behind this fence is where the lemurs are, but they can roam around this entire space. I mean, this little rope fence isn't gonna stop them. We also just passed a bit of education, including a big statue of an elephant bird, which is of course a huge species of bird that used to live on Madagascar, which is pretty cool to include here. But yeah, we have a small village area with a bunch of education and also a viewing area into another lemur exhibit. These are not part of this walkthrough. These are the blue-eyed lemurs, which are really quite rare. In fact, it was decided this year that all the specimens in Europe will be housed in just 2 zoos to really increase the efforts to breed these species, and Apenheul is one of those 2 zoos. So that's just really awesome that they got that role. But yeah, more about the lemurs here. We can follow this ring-tailed lemur as we go to the feeding presentation that we saw get started in another timeline earlier. And yeah, here you get great views of the lemurs all around you. All the 5 species of lemurs in this enclosure all show up for this feeding presentation, so you can see them all together, which is just really quite special. I don't think I've seen any other zoo that has this many species of lemur in one habitat. So yeah, just really awesome stuff over here at Apenheul. The only downside is that this feeding presentation area is a bit of a dead end, so we do have to turn around and make our way past that lake area again over here, where you can see more of these little bridges and the trees and stuff. But yeah, that is pretty much it for Apenheul. Let's move on to AquaZoo Leeuwarden over here. We start off at the backstage of the lemurs, and we can see they even have a little outdoor backstage cage over here, probably to give the lemurs the possibility of going inside and outside at all times, even when the zoo doesn't want to let them onto the island that they have, because that has a bit more escape risks, obviously. So over here you can see on the other side another one of those cages as well. There are 2 species of lemurs here, so I assume they are separated in these. And yeah, here you can see we go over this little bridge through the door, and then we get onto the lemur island. We got the Madagascar flag over there, lots of ropes all around, and lots of bushes and plants as well. We have views of other monkey islands for the South American monkeys over there, and in the bushes here we can see something that looks to be a black and white ruffed lemur, and it is, but it's a special one. This is the white belted black and white ruffed lemur. You can see a little belt going around their back. It's a different species of black and white ruffed lemur, and these are actually a bit less common. In fact, this is the only zoo in the Netherlands that has them. Before Beekse Bergen used to have them, and I think these are actually the same ones from Beekse Bergen. They just moved to this zoo instead, but they are super cool, and you can see they are very curious. Also, when I left my camera on the ground, this one was quite interested in it. But yeah, I got some this is only a fraction of the footage I got of these guys. It was so much fun recording them. That's the fun of these walkthrough exhibits, right? You can get so close to them, you can get such great footage. Just be respectful to the animals. I feel like in some cases I may have gotten a bit too close, but I never pet them. Don't do that. Frontier, don't add lemurs to the petting zoo mechanics. Why did you do that? Anyway, as you can see over here, as the path wraps around, we got some ropes going over the path, which is really fun as long as the lemurs don't start peeing on you. But yeah, no, it's absolutely awesome that they can also climb over top of you and you can get to look at them that way. That's just amazing. Having the lemurs right above your head, as you can see over here. And yeah, as we continue to walk along the path, we can see that shelter building over here with the Madagascar flag. You can take a little rest and enjoy the lemurs there. I think it's also kind of a resting place for the volunteers that walk around here to make sure that the peoples respect the lemurs. And yeah, here we can see another group of lemurs just enjoying the sun as they do. Absolutely awesome. And yeah, with that said, we can see in the background that backstage building, and over here we can see the exit of the walkthrough part, and that kind of leads us to the end of AquaZoo. So let's move on to the next zoo, which will be Avifauna. We're still at the letter A, another Dutch zoo. This zoo is mainly focused on birds, but they do have some other animals, as you can see from this lemur walkthrough enclosure. But it does feature some birds, actually. Over here we've got the gray-crowned crane? Black-crowned crane? I'm not sure which one, but they had some chicks, which was really awesome. Another thing that's pretty noteworthy about this habitat is that it actually has walls on the outside of it, and you can see from the outside of the zoo, you can see the same wall. So if the lemurs were to jump over, they would actually be outside of the zoo. There is another mode, but it has happened that lemurs have escaped from here. So not sure if that was the best of ideas. But yeah, as you can see, we get some views into the backstage over here. What's more interesting is this access point for the lemurs. It's just right on the path, so the lemurs kind of have to get really close to the visitor to get in and out of their indoor area, which I'm not sure is very ideal. But yeah, just quickly going to show each of the little rooms that they have here for all the lemurs. They have lots and lots of different rooms. Now over here we get really nice and close to this red-ruffed lemur, which is showing its agility, and is also kind enough to show us all of the other types of lemurs in this enclosure, and then what that entrance looks like when the lemur is going through it. Thank you so much for showing us that. But yeah, coming up is actually kind of the central area of this enclosure, which is also where they do feeding presentations and stuff like that. And here we see another red-ruffed lemur, but also another bird. Over here we have the vulturine guinea fowl. And yeah, these are pretty cool. I mean, they look absolutely terrifying, just like with the red eyes. Just look like murder chickens to me. I don't know how else to describe it. But yeah, over here we've got a red-ruffed lemur, kind of imitating the lemur on the sign, I guess. There's lots of education around here, which just doubles as climbing frames for the lemurs, of course. Why not? But yeah, as I said, this is the area where they do presentations for feeding. So over here on this kind of stage, they would put the food and you would be able to see the lemurs. And here we go. As I said, this video is just gonna be me shoving my camera into lemurs' faces because they're just so cool. Here we got the red-bellied lemur, by the way, which is also in this enclosure. Very nice. And yeah, you can see lots of ropes all around. Also just many tropical plants. Just a really nice looking exhibit. It's also really quite spacious. We haven't even gone halfway through it. It goes on for quite a bit, but I'm being distracted by lemurs again because they're just kind of... Here we got the ring-tailed lemurs. We haven't actually seen those yet in this part of the zoo, and we got a whole gang coming up. Look at them go. Just walking right by the camera. Look at them. I love it so much. The best part is that there weren't many visitors yet at this point, so it was just absolutely great. But what's really cool here is that you can also see them just not being bothered at all by the murdered chickens. So that is also really amazing. Thank you, Mr. Lemur. But anyway, as you can see, on one side we have the wall. On the other side there is this big lake, which is also preventing the lemurs from going out of the enclosure, of course. And yeah, as we keep on walking over here, we get to see another elephant bird. Just like at Apenheul, Avifauna also has an elephant bird education point, which makes sense because this is the bird zoo, so it makes sense that the bird zoo would have education about the bird. But yeah, let's just go through the very generic door again, and that's it for Avifauna. Next up, we have Safaripark Beekse Bergen, and we are entering the edge of Africa, the part of the zoo where they have the lemurs and the penguins, both kind of living on the edges of Africa, I guess. Madagascar is quite on the edge, as is the South South African coast where the penguins live. But yeah, as you can see, it's a very nice, spacious, open enclosure. You can also see a bit of a parkour area, which you can cross, and sometimes the lemurs will be around there as well. It's a pretty fun little thing. I only have footage of it that is really old, so excuse the camera quality. But to make it up for you, you get to see me almost fall, so that's that's one thing. This rope really is not much help in keeping you stable. But yeah, the lemurs can be found all over this place, of course, like at this little water body, which is basically a shortcut, so let's not go there, let's go around the other way. Or we can see there are feeders all over the place, like in the trees over here. But my favorite feeder is in what's also my favorite part of this enclosure. It's that little hut that we're walking towards. It's the ranger station, and this little hut contains all sorts of education about the lemurs, about poaching, about things like that. But we can also see some baggies on this shelf near the top there, and those are actually made of plastic, and they are feeding bowls that they can put food in to make it look like the lemurs are stealing the food of the rangers, which is such a fun idea. The only problem was I was told that the lemurs tended to poop in them, so they couldn't really use them as feeders. But yeah, that's just animals for you. They tend to be not doing what you intend, and also being a bit dramatic, like you got hit with a buggy. Over here we can see the backstage building, and I have actually been inside of here, so we can see a little bit of that. There's also some pretty old footage, so the quality isn't great, but yeah, you can see they have lots of indoor space as well, a communal space, some other spaces, a little thing where they can go over top from one side to the other. Lots of stuff going on in there, which is really, really cool. But yeah, going back to the lemur enclosure, because the backstage was actually attached to the penguin enclosure instead. Here you can see how the lemurs get from their backstage onto the island, making sure they can't climb or jump out. And this is kind of a little beach area where they tend to be chilling, but you can also see ropes going all over you. All day the lemurs can be all up in the trees, but they actually can also be found on the ground quite a lot, so you can really get close and get some great views and such. Over here you can see where you would be getting off that little parkour area, and over here in the bushes we can see a bit of a shelter type bunker thing. I never really knew what that was. It's a shelter for the lemurs, I suppose. And then there's the exit on the Pairi bridge. So that was it for Beekse Bergen. Next up we have Tierpark Berlin, and over here is a small lemur island. I'm not sure for which species exactly. Might just be the species that are also in the walkthrough that we're entering. So over here we got the red ruffed lemur, the black and white ruffed lemur, but also the the white belted black and white ruffed lemur. There we go. I don't know why I struggled with that so much. We enter through a little sluice system over here into this very nicely dense forested enclosure. We got the lemurs climbing all around us. Over there in the back we can see the white belted black and white ruffed lemur. There we go. And over here we can see the red ruffed lemur and the regular black and white ruffed lemur. I am going to completely go insane if I have to say ruffed lemur one more time, I think. One unique thing about this enclosure is that it actually has no moats or anything like that. It has a mesh side, so it's got mesh, it's got a little overhang, and probably a whole bunch of hot wire to prevent the lemurs from climbing out. Also, you can see the trees are very much trimmed around this fence to make sure there's no way for the lemurs to climb up and jump out. Now you will also have noticed the ring-tailed lemurs were nowhere to be seen. They have their own little enclosure, and since we're at the zoo anyway and this wasn't featured in the ring-tailed lemur video, might as well throw it in. I found the footage, so there you go. Next up we are at Eindhoven Zoo, or formerly Dierenrijk, and as we approach the lemur exhibit first we get a view into the backstage. This is really quite common for lemurs, so yeah, it's really quite cool right there. As we enter you can see this is also a pretty unique enclosure because this one is completely netted over. We haven't seen one of those yet, and you can see this one is housed by the ring-tailed lemur as well as the red ruffed lemur over there, which are just vibing and enjoying the sun in the back over there. This enclosure isn't enormous. The path kind of just curls around and brings you to the other side. One thing you can see from inside of here is that the lemurs are all over the place, but also that there is some glass viewing areas on the outside as well. So if you don't want to enter the enclosure and you just want to look at the lemurs, you can also do that safely, which is also good because during COVID and such, I think these enclosures were closed as well. So at least we could still look inside from a couple of vantage points. Then next up we have the Zoo of Magdeburg, and over here we can see there is a sluice entrance to the lemur enclosure, but there's a lock on it. It was closed when I was here. Maybe they saw me coming and they heard how much I push my camera into lemurs' faces and they closed the exhibit, but yeah, we can still get a pretty good look at it from the outside. It's a pretty large enclosure, lots of natural trees for the lemurs to climb in, some ropes and other climbing frames as well, and just a nice long path along it all that you could be viewing the lemurs from. Then in the next zoo, NaturZoo Rheine, we also have what I think should have been a walk-through lemur enclosure that was closed when I visited. So over here we've got what I feel like would have been the entrance building, the sluice, as you could say, but now it was turned into a glass viewing area, and I don't think this has any intention of becoming a walkthrough again in the future. I don't think it doesn't look like a very temporary closure, let's put it that way. But yeah, still a very nice spacious enclosure, and we can also view it from the other side. So let's move to the backstage building over here. We already saw this exhibit in the black and white rough lemur video forever ago, so let's not look at that one for now. But what we will look at is this indoor building, which has all sorts of different holding rooms for all the different kinds of lemurs. And all these enclosures can be connected to one another via some way, mainly these tunnels in the ceiling. You can see one in the top left right there, but we'll look at one a bit more closely now because it actually has a lemur sitting inside over there. I think that's a crowned lemur. It's kind of hard to tell in the dark over here. But yeah, at the end of this hallway over here, we got some more views into that large enclosure that we saw before. So, and you can see it is really quite large. There's a lot of plants, climbing frames, and also a little bit of a hint of education in the distance. We can see like a chainsaw in what I believe is some kind of deforestation education display. Now it's time for probably my favorite habitat in the entire video. This is Zooparc Overloon's Itampolo, and this is the main exhibit of the Madagascar area of the zoo, which basically is just this and the fossa, which are a little bit further along the path. Now most of my footage is a little bit older. Over here you can see some recent footage which has a red ruffed lemur in it, and also this sign over here is pretty recent. It used to be this cool little thing like welcome to Itampolo, which I kind of liked a little bit more. But yeah, as we go through here we get to the main part of the enclosure, which is this little village area. But first, over here you can see the red ruffed lemurs used to be black and white ruffed lemurs, although there was also a Lego red ruffed lemur there, so maybe that counts. But yeah, most of my footage will have the black and white ruffed lemur, but they're not in here anymore. But they're pretty interchangeable lemurs, right? But yeah, the coolest thing about this enclosure is this little village area over here. One thing you might immediately notice is this phone, and the phone might actually be ringing. And if it is, you can answer the phone and someone will start speaking to you about the village that you're in, about the fact that there used to be an illegal pet store which was closed down because of course we don't want no illegal pets. We don't want to sell lemurs as pets. It's a huge problem, especially on Madagascar itself, and it's one of the main reasons lemurs are so endangered, which is something that it's easy to forget about because of how common lemurs are in zoos, but in the wild they really aren't doing too well. So it's good that there's some attention to that here, and it's really, really well done in this beautiful themed area, which is also just a great place for the lemurs to climb around, sitting on the roof. You can often find them on the roof sunbathing as well. We also, of course, get some indoor views over here. I feel like that's almost a must-have for lemurs, and yeah, the lemurs here are definitely very curious and don't really respect personal boundaries at all, which can be really fun. Also do be careful, of course. They are still wild animals. They can bite, usual disclaimer stuff. Is that a turtle on the ground or was that food? I don't know. But yeah, one cool thing that happened here the first time I visited was I was just trying to record this lemur, and they were jumping all over the place. But this one actually, after jumping over me, used my shoulder as a springboard to get from one place to the other. And that's probably the closest I've been to a lemur. Actually, no, never mind. I've fed lemurs in Denmark since then. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's so cool how much the lemurs can traverse this little building over here, and that's just really fun. And also, oh my god, that's so cute. Why? I have too much good lemur footage. They are so charismatic. We really need to move on though. This video is way too long because I keep showing lemur footage. Over here, we have one more part of this enclosure, which is pretty cool, which is not this decent climbing frame, but it's actually this over here. This pit is actually a tortoise enclosure. I think it's the Egyptian land tortoise, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see the lemurs just vibing with the tortoises, which is really cool. But yeah, as we approach the exit over here, that's going to be it for Overloon, and we're moving on to Pairi Daiza, and we just left one of the 2 gorilla indoor areas, which are these big artificial volcanoes for whatever reason. And in between these 2 volcanoes is the walkthrough lemur exhibit over here, also called Madidi Nozi Komba or something along those lines. I'm not sure, probably butchered that. But we can see lots of nice themed buildings over here, lots of ropes going all over the place, a crowned lemur just sitting here vibing, enjoying their food, and we can see part of the indoor area as well. There you can see that volcano structure for the gorilla indoor area, which is just adjacent to all of this. And yeah, there's this kind of village square over here where there's a lot of action taking place. Just like at Avifauna, we can see there's some entrances into the buildings for the lemurs to go in and out. Although here they did give them some staircases, they don't have to jump inside like they did there, which I feel like is slightly nicer for them. They also immediately get the opportunity to climb over top of the guests using all those ropes next to their entrances, which I think is also nice for them. They don't have to go over the ground where all the people are walking. But yeah, we saw the village area, but there is also a much more naturalistic side to this exhibit. Over here where we are walking, there's just lots of plants, some bits of theming sprinkled throughout, but mainly just a nice bit of nature, and with some bits of shelter and stuff, of course, as well. And then here we have the second volcano, because why only build one when you can have 2 volcanoes? Of course, there's a bit more to the lemur habitat connecting the 2 volcanoes. In the back there we can see the village area, but that's pretty much it for Pairi Daiza. So let's move on to the other P. Planckendael over here. Also has a walk-through lemur exhibit. Now this one only has one of the lemurs in the game, only the ring-tailed lemur. They share the exhibit with black lemur. For some reason I didn't include this in the ring-tailed lemur video, and I don't know why. Especially since I did include Bergen Zoo, which also has ring-tailed lemurs and black lemurs combined. Although that one's not a walkthrough. Maybe that's the weird distinction that I made like a year and a half ago, whenever that video was made. Anyway, this is another netted over enclosure. As you can see, we have a cool viewing area from this pretty classical building over here, which also connects to the indoor area via these little things at the top there. Once again, allowing the lemurs to go over the guests instead of over the floor when they exit their indoor area. I think that's much better than having them have to leave over the ground. But yeah, there you kind of saw that nice classical building, and over here you see the middle of the habitat is quite open with some nice climbing frames. In the back you can also see a little African hut, which is a viewing area for those who don't want to enter the lemur walkthrough. And there's a bit of a pond in the middle as well, creating a nice landscape over here. But yeah, let's stab this guy in the eyes to leave. And from the outside over here, you can see the netted structure. They use these kind of natural logs to hold up the netting, which is pretty cool. And then as we move over here, we get inside of that viewing area. You can see some nice baobab tree decorations on the wall, and you can see a lovely view across that little pond that I mentioned. Really quite nice habitat. Next up, we have Ree Park Safari. I think these might actually be 2 separate habitats, but I've already gathered the footage now, so let's just include it. We are entering the lemur island. Don't mind the fact that there was a rope there telling me not to go in. I definitely went in here legally. Don't worry. We have a beautiful lush island with all sorts of plants all around us, with these little rope bridges going from tree to tree, lots of climbing opportunities for the lemurs. The area that we are in is home to all sorts of monkey islands, so this one has the ring-tailed lemurs, but there's also one for more South American monkeys like squirrel monkeys, spider monkeys, stuff like that. The gibbons as well, but the gibbons and spider monkeys aren't walkthroughs, so that's just the lemurs and the squirrel monkeys. But yeah, over here you can see this little outcropping kind of into the bush, and that's where we happen to see the lemurs kind of vibing around, just enjoying the last bits of sun of the day, because this was already past closing time for the zoo. I slept at the zoo, so that's why I was able to do this little tour and see the lemurs catching the last glimpses of sunshine. But yeah, over here we are leaving the ring-tailed lemur part of the enclosure and entering the red-ruffed lemur part of the enclosure. And I wonder if this has always been red-ruffed lemurs in here, because as we approach this other enclosure over here, and we get a small look at the indoor area for the red-ruffed lemurs on that building over there. On the outside, however, we can see that this is shared with giant anteater for some reason, and yes, the lemurs can absolutely get inside of that enclosure because there is ropes going over top of it and stuff. So I'm not exactly sure what the idea is there. It's quite a unique mix, I guess. But yeah, over here you can see the red-ruffed lemur being in here. Indeed, they do exist, and they were very curious about my camera. So that was fun. But yeah, that's it for Ree Park Safari. Let's move on to Serengeti-park Hodenhagen, where I also accidentally, I misremembered this one as being a walk through ring-tailed and red-ruffed lemur habitat, but there's actually, once again, two separate habitats. So you start off over here at the red-ruffed lemurs, which have their own little space, which is not very big. It's a fine enclosure still. I think this one's probably similarly sized to the one we saw at Dierenrijk, although this one's not netted over. But yeah, as we go through over here, we also get to the ring-tailed lemur enclosure. And now you can probably imagine why I thought these were mixed, because this is definitely big enough to have both of them. Although it is quite barren, actually. I would like to see this place have a bit more plants. There is quite a bit of climbing for them, but it could be more. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a boring exhibit, to be honest. It's also not the prettiest of structures, this huge cage thing. But yeah, here we can see lemur going aside because a little girl tried to pet him. And she's actually chasing him aside there, but let's not record little kids. So let's go out of here again. You can see over here you can book these lodges right next to the big old cage. And you can technically sleep next to the lemurs. You don't get great views of them from the lodges, I don't think, but you can wake up to the sounds of lemurs screaming. So that's just lovely. Now it's already time for the last zoo of the video. We are going into Rimbula at Wildlands, a huge tropical house. And after going through a little bird area, we enter the lemur enclosure over here. Right as we enter, actually when I turned around, there was a lemur, ring-tailed lemur there, climbing the mesh divider between the lemur enclosure and the bird enclosure that I just mentioned. And also another time I came here, the moment I opened the door, there were just a bunch of lemurs sitting right in front of me over there, so that was pretty fun. We can see a little staff path over there going to the backstage of the lemur, which is behind all of these bushes over here. And we can see some education, and we can see some black and white ruffed lemurs sitting over there in the back. I'm not sure if they are there anymore. I think the zoo replaced them with black lemurs. I think they tried to have all three species of lemurs, but they weren't getting along, and I think it was the black and white ruffed lemur that ended up getting removed because of that, although I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's a really nice enclosure. I think this is the only enclosure in the video that has the lemurs in a tropical house like this, which is pretty special. And it's really cool. You can really get to see them in a tropical environment like that. And it's all themed, all man-made, and it's really quite beautiful. But that is going to be it for me today. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got some all of the lemur inspiration. And happy Halloween. See you in the next video. Bye bye.